whakarongo ki te tangi a te korimako. Kōrero flowing out the hook of force. Kaupapa relevant, kaupapa out of bounds, kaupapa exigent, kaupapa paramount. Nā kona whakapiri mai ki te kaupapa tino whakahira hira whakarongo pi kari kari mai. Hare hare mai, o Taringa hare hare mai. We gotta gather up close everybody. Gather up close everybody. Kani move that body. Kani move that body.
E ngai hore titi, e ngai hore tata, e ngā iwi o te motu otira o te ao. Nei mātou i te wānanga o te roa, me ki te ipurau e whakapaho atu nei kia koutou. Nau mai hoki mai, ki tēnei punua pāho kia Taringa. Welcome back everybody. Good to be back here in our cozy little studio and joining myself and te puaheiri today, Snow. Today we're very lucky to have tēnei tuahine o Māua, kua tai mai ki te manaki te kaupapa, e te tuahine Kila, e mihi ana kia koe tēnā koe te maunga o Tongariro. O tira te rātu maunga o ngongota hāhoi anō i tēnei rā ko tō maunga ko Tongariro.
Ai.
And that's a little clue. Kia ora e te tuahina tēnā koe, pewhi ana.
Tēnā koutou katoa, ko Tongariro te maunga, ko taupōnui ātia te moana, ko Tūwharetoa te Iwi, ko te heuheu, te tangata.
Yeah!
Ka pai.
Yeah!
Good timing.
Yeah, it was.
Ko Kila tēnei.
Kia ora Kila. And even that sound effect is from someone from Tūwharetoa.
Ai, tika ana.
Kia ora Maui. So if you haven't worked out at Iwi, I've now got a special sounds keyboard.
It's dangerous.
It's good though. Diversifies.
Ai.
Absolutely adds another way to it. And Kila in the room, he just gave her pepper, so that'll give you a bit of a clue about who we're talking about this Taringa, because we're back at Iwi o te wiki. Engari, before we launch into that, e te Iwi, it is... Oh, isn't that dramatic? So ko tā tātai, nice echo there. You know, it's like the echoes going between Tongariro, Ngauruhoi and Wakihu. Ko tā tātai kiwaha i tēnei wiki kei a koe Kila. Tā tātai kiwaha kianga rānei.
Ai, ko te kianga o te wiki, sorry, it's English, ne? So the phrase of the week, tika tērā? Aiua, aihau, ai marangai. It is quite a prominent saying in Ngāti Tūwharetoa. It's usually mentioned whenever our beautiful female mountain Pihanga, which is in the Mātāpuna on the southern side of Lake Taupo, it is usually mentioned alongside her. So you would usually say Pihanga, aiua, aihau, ai marangai, which basically means that she is multifaceted, but she also bears a lot of the wind, the rain and the hail. And you liken it to a woman that you can either use it as, I would say, my mother actually is a woman who is like Pihanga, aiua, aihau, ai marangai, and my father often uses that term to describe her because she is a woman that can bear all of that, and that can also represent aiua, aihau, ai marangai, meaning that she can be fierce like the wind and strong like the hail, like te rā momoahua. So that kind of wairua to it. Ai.
Tēnā koe.
Ai, yep. I know women like that.
Me too.
Yeah. With the cold shoulder.
Yeah, could it mean that too? Could it mean that 1 minute you're...
Ai.
Right.
Ai.
I think
that's
cool.
what I mean by it being a bit of a two-sided kiwaha, that it could mean someone who is strong and that can bear things, and also someone that could be a little bit icy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kia ora.
Like the hail one day and the wind another day.
Yeah. And then
Unpredictable.
A nice,
Yeah,
and then
unpredictable,
a
yes.
And then a nice
unpredictable.
breeze when they want something.
Yeah.
Nice cool breeze when they want something.
I think it's interesting too to note that is a line out of the waiata, the famous, one of the most famous waiata aroha, Kaeke ki Wairaka.
Oh, true.
So yeah, I find that interesting. Tēnā koe e te tuahine. So we'll be attempting to use that through the segment of Taringa. Nō reira e te iwi koe nei tā tātou kiwaha. Nō reira e te wiki a tahuria ke tātou I naia nei, ki tā tātou kaupapa, iwi o te wiki, and we opened with, or Kila opened with her pepeha, and if you didn't click on, this week we're very, very lucky to have, not only is she and hey look, ai ua ai hau, ai marangai, multifaceted, she said, multitask, multi-talented, because Kila is actually, we're very lucky she's an employee of Te Wānanga Aotearoa now. And she is also tūwharetoa. And she's been born and bred tūwharetoa.
Ai.
We're lucky to have you here.
Thank
so,
you.
E mihi ana kia koe. Haere mai ki tā tātou kaupapa. So, tūwharetoa e te tuahine. We find when we've done these segments, the people we have sitting in the room is like, surely they must know who this iwi is. The various iwi we've had. We get a lot of feedback from people who Māori and non-Māori who don't know the iwi that we talk about.
Well, that's funny. I've been having conversations with, because I'm at Te Wānanga o Aotearoa, and prior to this I've been in a lot of non-Māori organisations, and so it's really easy when you're isolated by yourself to forget that there are other iwi that exist until you come into a place like Te Wānanga o Aotearoa and there are so many different iwi representatives around your place of work. So I've been having some really interesting conversations about my perspective on something Māori, which I think is just the norm, and then actually finding out that other iwi have different perspectives because of maybe where they're placed within Aotearoa, or perhaps the influences, the different environmental or social or political influences that they have. So it changes their perspective on things that I thought all Māori knew from my perspective. So, so funnily enough, I think that's not too hard to believe that people don't know very much about other iwi other than their own.
That sounds like another episode.
Yeah.
It is a very good episode, perception of such things. But I'm the same, tūwharetoa, I think I know that much, but then people go taupo and I say tūwharetoa, and that's all I know. Or, that's all I profess to know. But the amount of different... Good place to start. Yeah. But the amount of different hapu marae communities around Lake Taupo, Taupo is not the only place, or the Taupo town that we're talking about, city. City. So it has a Burger King, so it has city.
Wait, that's Turangi.
It is Turangi.
And Turangi is a city.
Turangi is a city.
It's a metropolis, just as big as Te Awamutu.
Because that's the other thing I know within our respective iwi that are sitting around here. We've got Tūwharetoa, Ngāpuhi, Raukawa. And then we know within our iwi, we have our own sort of pecking order.
Yes.
And then, parts or rohe or takiwa within our iwi will say, oh no, well, we're from this part. And I've noticed that in Tūwharetoa.
Yeah, it is.
We'll get the te hiku wai, talking about te pūau, and the ones over by the maunga and then the rotoaira lot. And and so it's pretty cool. So we will start there, te tuahine. Taupo, or maybe not taupo, kōrero mai te rohe o Tūwharetoa.
Yeah, so it is quite a big iwi. Geographically, we span quite a bit of landmass. Like if you think of some of the smaller iwi, they usually congregate to one little kind of place, but we are spread right out all over the place. So Taupo Nuiatia is actually a good place to start. So Taupo Nuiatia is the central lake. And if you are looking to the south, if you're in Taupo and you're looking to the south, everything beyond the island in the centre, Motu Taiko, we call Te Mātāpuna. And everything to the northern side of the same island is Te Hikuwai. And then we branch all the way out to the Kaingaroa ranges, Titiropenga, and then just on the other side of the desert road, depending on which side of the lake you come from, on our side of the lake, we say that Reporoa, kind of that, around about that area, near Bulls, that would be kind of our domain on the southern side. And then on the northern side, Tūwharetoa Ake, there is an area, it's the Hinemihi Bridge, and e kia nei te kōrero, the saying goes is that the Hinemihi Bridge is kind of our final boundary.
And whereabouts is that, the Hinemihi Bridge?
Hinemihi Bridge is, if you kind of keep going northeast, you'll eventually... the Napier Taupo, the Haere Pērātu.
Kia ora, I know where it is now.
Yeah, so kei te Ratakiwa. So around that area. Yeah. And because we have so many mountains, a common saying in te Mātāpuna is ngā pai maunga. And so, which is the mountainous plain. So pretty much if you're in and around the lake and if you can see all the mountains, that's Tūwharetoa area.
Kia ora.
Yep, koe rā mātou.
Tēnā koe. And then just for our, because just recently, when I mean recently, probably in the last 5 years, you know, I've come to know Tūwharetoa, the relations over at Kawerau.
Aye, yes.
Aye, well, that's because our tupuna who we have our name from, Tūwharetoa tangata, Manaia, Waiwai Rākau, Tūwharetoa i te au Pauri, kai tangata.
Those were all his names?
Those were all of his names, or some of his names.
Kia ora.
And they each name represented an aspect of Tūwharetoa, the man himself. But Tūwharetoa, the man, settled in Kawerau, and so some of his children actually stayed there as well. And he nui ngā, so we have a iwi called Tūwharetoa ki Kawerau, and, a hapu. And they settled in Kawerau, and so we have a lot of ties to Kawerau because of our tupuna, because of Tūwharetoa, te tangata. Yeah.
Tēnā koe.
Kia ora. That's a big catchment, that area. I'm just picturing it myself as you were talking the boundary.
Well, it's a lot, like there are a lot of stories as well about the different areas in relation to Ngāti Tūwharetoa and Tia as well, because we have our namesake, Tūwharetoa te tangata, but we also, in a lot of our stories and a lot of our pastimes, we make a lot of reference to our chief, our tohunga, or our hea te kupu Pākehā mo te tohunga.
Expert? Subject
priest.
matter expert?
Yeah.
Priest?
Priest, yeah. Wizard? No. He, Ngāti Tūwharetoa is in a lot of our stories, so he is actually someone who we often refer to in our waiata and will refer to in our pakiwaitara as well. And because of Ngāti Tūwharetoa and because of Tia, there was a rivalry between them. He whanaunga, he karangatahi rāua.
Yes, okay.
They were he uri rāua. And a lot of the places around Taupo, Aratia, Tia, Atia, Muri were named after Tia, te tangata.
So they didn't predate each other, they were there at the same time. Is that what it is?
Yes.
Oh,
No
okay.
reira, e ai ki ngā kōrero no te kāinga, from the stories from back home, we are of the belief that Tia and Ngāti Tūwharetoa were of the same time, engari, but they were a different generation.
I see.
Yeah.
Hoi anō, a lot of the stories or a lot of the beliefs on some of the places in Tūwharetoa come from those two tipuna, more so than Tūwharetoa te tangata.
Yeah.
So where does the name Taupo Nui Atia, what was that? Does that signify an event of some sort, or it's easy to Wikipedia it, but it's better to get it from.
There's a few kōrero that I've heard about that name. Taupo Nui Atia, I think the most commonly spoken about is the lake of, or the cloak of Tia. So there is a saying that Tia, as he was journeying through, because he was a navigator, an explorer.
He was going through the forests.
I think Paraone is going to use any excuse to use that machine today. But e pai ana tērā. So Tia, he had, while he was on the lake, he saw a cliff, and the cliff he named Te Taupo Nui a Tia, the cloak of Tia.
Okay.
And it wasn't actually until after that incident, him naming the cliffside, that the people adopted that name and made the entire lake Te Taupo Nui a Tia. That's one saying that I've heard, or one kōrero that I've heard. Another one that I've heard is actually about Ngāti Tūwharetoa, and just before he journeyed up to the mountain, he landed just at the base by the lakeside at night time, and e kia nei te kōrero I tauia I te pō. Koe anō, some of the, I guess for me, looking at that story and trying to tie it back to Tia himself, I probably think that the first one is closer to, I guess my own beliefs of how it was named.
And you also mentioned an island in the middle of Taupo Nui a Tia. What's the name and what type of significance does it have to Tūwharetoa?
Yeah, well, so the name of the island in the middle of the lake is called Motutaiko. And Motutaiko, growing up, we always saw Motu Taiko as a sacred island that nobody was allowed to go on. And I believe that Motu Taiko is actually he urupa I nānei. I te mea he nui ngā kōiwi, kei runga I tērā mautere. There's a lot of warfaric history that has happened on Motu Taiko. And so it's one of those islands that no one really talks about because there's so much bad blood between the warring tribes of the time. And so no one goes on Motu Taiko anymore. It's protected. It's a protected and sacred tapu mautere island.
Oh, cool. I once heard, and I was wondering if you could, is it where a lot of taonga were held as well, as if to be like the treasure chest of the iwi?
Yeah, well, I think...
I'm seeing Indiana Jones.
Oh, yeah. Don't you try it now if you're thinking of it. Take a sandbag and a... to try and swap a... Yeah.
I would say that you should definitely not go on the island. If you're in the area and you see it, observe it. You know, like a museum.
Yeah.
You go over and kamata ka
That's a cool way of putting it.
Yeah.
And you absorb the beauty of it without disturbing its peacefulness.
Ai, tika,
ne?
kia ora.
He rawe tērā kōrero, kia ora.
And I think kua nui ngā rangatira, kua whawhai, kua mate hoki I reira. So I guess maybe one of the things that comes to mind when you're talking about the taonga on the island is actually the ngā wairua o ngā rangatira I mate, I reira. Nō reira. Ai he whakaro noiho, hoi anō.
But no, pai ena whakaro e, just because it's beautiful and pristine doesn't mean you want to go and touch it.
Oh,
no,
no,
so
look,
it's best to left, yeah.
You know, as a young boy, usually on a trip to Wellington and going through Taupo and then, you know, down the other side past Motu Tere, and that's the closest, and, you know, that side of the lake. And seeing it as a boy, you know, I could feel things then, you know, as a young boy. And then, you know, as I got older, I heard some of the stories. And then, you know, we sing a pātere.
Ai.
E noho nei te papatahi o taku koro, that from our kuia.
Yeah.
And there's a line in there talks about her going to get te ngako, and te here goes to the island to get te ngako for her to wear. So yeah, I'm intrigued by the place.
I think that's where I got that from, remembering that, and I found it quite astonishing to know that there was a place where you held,
Yeah.
you know, the heirlooms or the,
You're
the
right,
taonga.
it was like a Swiss bank account.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
a Swiss vault.
Ai, where all the things are,
Where the, not only the Tūwharetoa dynasty, but, you know, the ngā rangatira me ngā ariki o Tūwharetoa kept a lot of their taonga. Tēnā koe e nā kōrero.
Ai.
So hene, pirangi te, you mentioned manaia and waiwai rākau and Tūwharetoa I te upauri. And so everybody's, I know for us, it's we know, but I just wanted to mention that Tūwharetoa is part of the Te Arawa Confederation.
Yes.
Ai, kia ora.
Or a part of Te Arawa Waka, because we said before on a previous show, I see Te Arawa as Rotorua
Yeah.
and Tūwharetoa as
Tūwharetoa.
Tūwharetoa.
Though
Even
they-
though Te Arawa say mai maketu ki
Ki
Tongariro.
Tongariro.
Ai.
Yeah.
Mai te awa o te atua ki Tongariro.
Yeah, mai te awa te atua ki Tongariro. Kia ora, tēnā koe. But maybe to just elaborate on those ingoa and how Tūwharetoa got his name would be valuable.
So Tūwharetoa, so there are a few names that we mentioned there, everybody. Ko Tūwharetoa I te au pauri, Tūwharetoa waiwai rākau, Tūwharetoa kaitangata. And there is another name that we in Te Mātāpuna know him by, which is Tūwharetoa Manaia. Now, he was I've always heard Tūwharetoa in a very informal context.
Yeah.
So whenever our kaumātua and whenever my pakeke have talked about Tūwharetoa, I always get the sense that he was a little bit mischievous pea because he was a beautiful man. He was ātāhua. And if you look at his whakapapa, actually, he has many wives and many children. And wherever he went, he was always adored by women.
Ai u ai hou ai mara.
Okay, one for
Tērā
you,
pea.
one for me.
Kia ora.
Or it might have been ai, ooh, ai. Sorry.
And then, whakarere atu ai marangai.
So he was always adored, and tērā ingoa, his name Manaia, as far as I know, tērā kupu was a representation of his physical beauty.
Kia ora.
Tūwharetoa, te tangata. Nō reira, ko tōna ingoa, Tūwharetoa Waiwai Rākau. So Waiwai Rākau, of course, the word waiwai means legs or feet, but in our case it means legs. Tūwharetoa Waiwai Rākau. And Rākau means stick or tree or branch. And Tūwharetoa Waiwai Rākau in this context means there are a few layers to it. So Tūwharetoa was a fast runner.
Kia ora.
Tūwharetoa was an expert in footwork. And then a funny one actually that I've heard is that Tūwharetoa Waiwai Rākau means that he had a third leg. Now, previously I've mentioned that he was quite good with the ladies, so hopefully that might give you a bit of an indication as to sort of the subtext of that name, Waiwai Rākau. Tūwharetoa kaitangata. Tūwharetoa was an expert as well in weaponry, in the arts, in martial arts.
Martial arts.
Yes, the martial in martial arts, exactly. Hoi anō, Tūwharetoa kaitangata actually means to eat people.
Devourer of mankind.
Exactly. And so Tūwharetoa actually had a particular skill in winning battles because of how well-versed he was in weaponry and in feat work. And he was a brooding man. He often won his battles. Tūwharetoa I te au Pauri. This is the first part of his name. So he has three names: Tūwharetoa I te au Pauri, Tūwharetoa Waiwai Rākau, Tūwharetoa kaitangata. Tūwharetoa I te au Pauri is a very special name, and it has the connection. It's the connection between Tūwharetoa and his father, Mawake Taupo. So his father, Mawake Taupo, bestowed all of these three names upon Tūwharetoa te tangata, Tūwharetoa the man. And that last name, Tūwharetoa I te au Pauri, it talks about their connection, but actually the context around how he got that name was Tūwharetoa, before he was dubbed these three names, when he was still called Manaia, his father predicted or had thought that Tūwharetoa wasn't able to stand up for himself in battle. Tūwharetoa was in a particular battle, and he, to cut a long story short, he wasn't doing very well.
Yeah.
And so his father, who wasn't directly with him at the time, sensed that something was wrong. He felt te au Pauri, or a wave of pain.
Kia ora.
And he knew that it was from his son. And so his father, Mawake Taupo, went to Tūwharetoa's aid because his father felt that wave of pain, or that connection of pain. And therefore, that particular part of his name came to life, Tūwharetoa I te au Pauri. But within this battle and many other battles, he earned the following names: Tūwharetoa Waiwai Rākau, Tūwharetoa kaitangata. And that's how Tūwharetoa came to be those three variations of his name.
Kia ora.
Nō reira koenei ētahi o ngā wete ngā kōrero. These are some of the details of some of those names from me, who really just grew up just listening to my pakeke kind of talk about it and then go, really? And so actually this is probably the first time I've thought about it since so
you've formalised your informal learning. So that Tūwharetoa I te au Pauri, does that show, do you mean like a telekinetic?
Tērā pēr.
Yeah.
Tērā pēr.
Yeah. That's how I saw it. That's pretty cool.
Tērā pēr. Hoi anō he that connection that you have with your parent, or maybe with your child. He hononga I wainga nui a rāua. But, the actual words, I'm not too sure what the words mean. Hoi anō he wharenui ki Tūwharetoa, we have a house named after that Tūwharetoa I te au Pauri.
Ia tāua e nei kōrero i te tuene.
Tēnā koe.
Yeah, the first time I've that I've heard it explained. I've heard some stories about the name change. I've heard another story that originally he was Manaia and then he became Tūwharetoa.
Oh, so he was born Manaia.
Born Manaia.
Kia ora.
Ka huritana ingoa ki Tūwharetoa. That story, ai ko mahu e tērā ki au.
And to our listeners at Te Iwi, it's not uncommon that tupuna took on different names,
Yeah.
showing events in their life or,
I know one of our kraua, his name was Te Kehua, and it wasn't, funnily enough, it wasn't because of, well, he was a kiritea man. He had fair skin.
Yeah.
So people assumed that his name came from his complexion. But actually, he had a tendency when he was holding the rākau to kehu. Like this.
Right.
So he would kind of lean to one side and favour his left or his right or left eye and then blink from side to side and ka kehu haere. So, but that wasn't until he was a pakeke, until he was older. So his adult name and his tamariki name were two completely separate ingoa, but that's definitely not uncommon that people's names change, especially important people.
Yeah. I have a few names.
Yeah.
Can't say them but when I go home as boy.
Oh, mine's Te Mene.
Te Mene. Te awhare.
So what about some of the stories that you have heard about e rā ingoa, about the names from Tūwharetoa?
Well, we went down I Haremata ki te nohi tūrangi i te taiwa i te taho Rangiria. And it's actually Moe Mai Rangiria, it was their birthday the other day.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And John Kawana, he took us around some of the places. So we went to, I think it was Whakangiangi Pa and a couple of other places. And I recall he talked about Rongomai.
Te ngangana?
Yeah. And the name changed from Manaia to Tūwharetoa, that he showed to his father that he could commit this deed that his father thought he couldn't. And that's when he was renamed, or Tūwharetoa. But was still known as Manaia as well, but as time went on, Tūwharetoa stuck. So, koena te kōrero i.
Is that what they try to portray on Kairako? Because I'm trying
he paki waitara oroto.
I was trying to get what
What I find interesting is that Manaia was also the name of the archenemy of Ngāti Roirangi.
Oh, true.
Aye.
Who Ngāti Roirangi battled, the last battle he had was at Te Motiti Nui Anaki, Motiti Island. So I've always found that interesting, that the descendant of Ngāti Roirangi had the name Manaia. But again, Manaia was quite a prominent name in that epoch. So while we're on Ngāti Roirangi, maybe kōrero tia etahi kōrero mō Ngāti Roirangi, tata ki tō ngākau.
Yeah, I've grown up hearing about Ngāti Roirangi, and as far as I was concerned, as a 3, 4, 5, 6, up to 12-year-old, Ngāti Roirangi was the man.
Yeah.
And so I guess his journey starts just before he hops on to the canoe of his cousin, Tamate Kapua, accidentally steps onto it. So he was intended to go on the Tainui canoe, actually. He was meant to be the tohunga of the Tainui canoe. However, Tamate Kapua, e ai ki ngā kōrero, as the saying goes, Tamate Kapua lured or enticed Ngāti Roirangi, or asked a request of him to come on to the Te Arawa canoe, his own canoe, Te Arawa canoe. And he asked Ngāti Roirangi, the tohunga, to do some karakia, to do some incantation, to bless the waka before the voyage, which is a fair enough request ne. Hoi anō, before Ngāti Roirangi had finished his incantation, himself and his wife, Kearoa, they were both on the canoe, and it started leaving, and he hadn't finished. And so that is kind of the beginning of the end, really, for Ngāti Roirangi, because he would forevermore be known as the chief of, or one of the chiefs of the Te Arawa canoe. And so that was a very rocky journey, and I think, I believe that because of Tamate Kapua's trickery and because of the way that Ngāti Roirangi was tricked into going on to the Te Arawa canoe, it caused some strife on that journey. And one of the famous stories from home in Ngāti Tūwharetoa is about te korokoro o te parata. In fact, it is a very prominent te arawa story as well. And for those who don't know, while the te arawa canoe was going from Hawaii to Aotearoa, there was an incident, a very bad incident, and there are a few reasons why this incident occurred. But basically, in the middle of the ocean, there was a whirlpool, and at the very centre of the whirlpool was a taniwha, or a creature. As some might say, the whirlpool itself was the taniwha.
The Kraken.
The Kraken.
Denizen of the deep.
Denizen of the deep.
And while this whirlpool, massive whirlpool was going, the te arawa, most of the canoes from Hawaii started plummeting into the depths of the parata, the whirlpool. And Ngā Toroirangi himself pulled them out of that circumstance, and he did his karakia and his incantation, whatever else he did, and he stopped it. But some of us believe that he perhaps was the one that started it in the first place.
Absolutely.
So
what is that? What was the incident? What caused such insult for him to create?
Firstly, he was tricked onto a waka that wasn't his.
True. Fair enough.
But the key incident that happened was as he was performing his duties, ploughing forward to go to arrive in Aotearoa, Tamate Kapua, his whanaunga,
Was trying to do his own ploughing.
Ai ho ai marangai.
he was, trying to entice Ngā Toroirangi's wife into bed with him. And that's another interesting story as well, actually, because I know Ngā Toroirangi had an inkling. I think he knew that Tamate Kapua may have wanted to do something with Kearoa, his wife. And so Kearoa, there was a string attached to her pinky finger. And pinky finger, ki etahi, pinky toe, ki etahi atu. And this string was attached to Ngā Toroirangi's own body. And so the thought was that Ngā Toroirangi would know if his wife was being tampered with by anybody else, because the string would move. And I think it happened. The string moved, Ngā Toroirangi found what he had suspected all along but had hoped wasn't true, and from that was the rage that caused the whirlpool.
It would have been like a string when you catch a fish, like heaps of tugging on it or something.
Well, I guess that
God
was...
God knows which way it was going.
God knows which way it was going. Edit that,
I've
please.
heard too, Tamate Kapua removed it and tied it.
Yes.
Tied it to something. So there's all sorts of... He was a pretty tricky whalau tupuna.
So research that at te whānau is actually quite very interesting, kōrero, all that stuff.
And so he himself, Ngā Toroirangi, created the whirlpool because he was like, well, I don't really want to be with my cheating wife, and I don't really, not really into Tamate Kapua, my whanaunga, and so... too bad, we're all going to die, So there was a bit of convincing that happened as they were nosediving into this whirlpool from the people of the waka to Ngā Toroirangi, because they knew that he was the only one that could get them out of it. And he did, probably reluctantly, but, There you
go, Taika Waititi, we've said it before. Yeah, many kōrero here that you can make great movies after they find the Infinity Stones. Hoi no.
Taku moio ko te ingo o te waka I tērā wā, ko ngā rākau mātahi pua atua matua.
Ko
Kia ora.
Those names, ngā rākau mātahi pū, or some say ngā rākau ērua atua matua. And it was after the waka came up, and Ngā Toroirangi...
Rākau tata whai ne, ngā rākau.
Ngā Toroirangi said in his karakia ko taku waka ko Te Arawa, and that's when it got the name Te Arawa, was from his karakia to pull them out of the whirlpool of Te Parata.
Kia ora.
So he was the man.
Yeah.
He was.
Yeah.
And because of his intention to go on the tainui canoe, I know that Ngāti Tūwharetoa and Te Arawa whānui actually have a lot of history with tainui waka as well. So, hoi anō. That is one of the stories that I remember listening to as a young child and going.
We haven't even got to Aotearoa yet. Far out.
We haven't even arrived.
Yeah,
and, that's one of the things that sticks to my mind about Ngā Toroirangi's journey. Another one which is also very close to me because of the geothermal activity around Taupo.
Kia ora.
And because of the maunga, is about Ngā Toroirangi's journey up to Tongariro, to the peak of Tongariro. He journeyed up to the peak of Tongariro, and when he got to the very top, it was freezing. And so he...
It was snowing?
It was snowing, there was hail, there was rain, there was everything. And he was about to die.
Aiho.
And he needed to feel some warmth, otherwise he would die. So he called out to his sisters who were still in Hawaii. And one of the incantations that he recited, or his karanga to his sisters, was E kui e hau e, kāriro au I te tonga, ara tuku nā mai te ahi, which means E kui, which is one of his sisters, E hau, haungaroa, another one of his sisters, the tonga, the southern wind, is about to devour me, send me the fire. So he sent for them, they heard his call, and they sent te pupu and te hoata, which are two sacred fires, into Ngā Toroirangi. And the journey of those fires you can see all the way from White Island, Mautohora, all the way through Whakaari, Mautohora, all the way through to Tongariro, Rotoihu, Rotoiti, Rotorua, Tarawera, Orake, Korako, Wairake, Tokānu, Tongariro. So you can see the journey of the fire all the way to Ngā Toroirangi.
Hey, man.
Yeah, so koira te tehi o ngā pakiwaitara e pātata ana ki au. That particular story really resonates with me because it talks about, our ancestor and our mountain, our maunga, Tongariro, of whom raised me.
Kia ora.
Ko taku karaua o Tongariro. So, koira, he nui ngā pakiwaitara. There are so many. I could just talk about this all day.
Yeah, tāua.
And as the people of Whanganui have their relationship with the awa, Tūwharetoa have with the maunga, neha.
Tino nei.
Me te roto, engari, that the identity of Tongariro.
Yeah, I think Tongariro, because of, again, I'm reminiscent of another story about our karaua, about Tongariro, but there are so many different metaphors and kōrero and proverbs about our mountains that it's just kind of ingrained in our upbringing.
Kia ora.
And the way, and a lot of, when we grew up, the way that we were brought up, we were always given mountain metaphors, me tūkaha anō nei, he maunga.
Yeah,
one of our haka talks about ngā pai maunga. Another one talks about the embers within the maunga that is the fire or the passion that resides within every one of us. And so a lot of those kōrero, a lot of the kōrero about the maunga, you could, as a person, as a child or as a teenager, you could relate to a lot of that, and you use that as strength to kind of plough on with your life or to dedicate passionate areas in your life. So, so we are very driven by our mountains. And it's actually funny whenever I go outside of Tūwharetoa and I... harai te mea, he mea whakaiti engari, people say, ko such and such te maunga.
And you're like...
I'm like, ko such and such te puke? No. No, but because I'm, it surrounds me.
I mean, how can you not, when your standard of a maunga...
You see their maunga and then it's like... No, I know what you mean because I had a mate from Taranaki.
Yeah.
He lived there his whole life.
Yeah.
When he came up here and people were saying their maunga. So I can understand that.
Yeah. But you just get used to the environment that you're surrounded in. And so the rest of your kind of life and your perception of, especially in your Māori world, it's completely influenced by the place where you grew up or the influences of nature around you. And in our case, it was the maunga. And then contrastingly, our lake.
You don't really know lofty until you've seen your maunga, the likes of the ngā pai maunga.
Oh, right. I
Yeah.
thought you were talking about one of my cousins.
Kazi Loft.
Lofty.
Yeah.
But I'm sure
Yeah,
other,
Lofty, not righty.
other iwi feel the same about kai as well. You
Yeah.
know, like they come to us and we've got lots of trout.
Yeah.
We used to have, pre-colonization, we had a lot of other fish, but
Aye.
now we've only got trout. Sorry, not
Yeah.
only. I mean, e mihi anō ki te trout. Hoi anō.
I was talking to one of your whanaungas and I was going, Che, what was the Māori word for trout? He goes, it's an introduced fish. And I never knew that
Yeah.
because I'm not a...
Tahira.
Ka tahira.
We
Tahina
have
tore.
a native trout.
Aye.
We do have a native one, but it's much smaller. But the brown and rainbow are introduced.
Aye. Yes, you didn't
Yeah.
even know that.
Yeah. So how te kupu can I guess what it was?
It's
What-
probably what it sounds like
was
after
it
you've eaten
taraute?
kina. Yeah.
Taraute.
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 Yeah. But I want to talk about your natural environment because it's so different. Or, if you're not used to it, you have people living in their natural environment, which is beautiful. And you have different weather patterns, eh? So I understand you have kiwaha and whakatauki pertaining to that. We were talking about kapua whakapipi. Can you explain what that means?
Kapua whakapipi, it's a type of cloud and it's usually across the Kaikōrero ranges. I mean, it's I don't know what
Taingaroa Kaimanoa.
Oh, yeah, Kaimanoa, sorry. Kaimanoa ranges. And it's what is it? How te kupu? Dusty cloud. I don't know if that's the right word. Hoi anō, it's always freezing. And because it's a bit of a...
Bit of a trough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Caldera.
Because of that, the cold comes and the whole rest of the country could be warm, but the cold will stay until it just slowly seeps away. But then the next day it comes again. So seldom will you be in Taupo and the warmth stays there, you could be in the sun, the direct sun, and as soon as you go in the shade, you're cold again, even though the sun, is right there. So, I mean, the nature of the weather in Taupo is pretty ridiculous. Another thing, actually, which I'm embarrassed to admit, when I left Taupo and I would go to the beach side, I'd been to the beach before, but maybe I just hadn't noticed it. I discovered tides. Because we don't have a tide.
Yeah, see?
In Taupo. And I remember thinking, man, this is such a weird thing for the water to be doing. It never happened like that at home. And I just never thought about it before.
Yeah.
And so I'm just so used to fresh water, pure, amazing water, and not used to salty, disappearing water.
Yeah, awa paru.
Awa paru.
You
Yeah.
take it for granted there because all the rivers in Tūwharetoa are pristine. They're either running into or out of Taupo.
Exactly.
Yeah, and Taupo, tino mā, te rotora a Taupo.
Yeah, it's got its days or it's got its periods,
Yeah.
but more often than not, Taupo is really sparkly clean. And we've spent almost every summer in Taupo enjoying that particular water. Actually, another funny thing, salt water is a lot denser than fresh water. The buoyancy is different.
Yes.
So I always kind of hated swimming because it just felt so heavy in fresh water. And if you go into salt water, it's just a lot different. And it's just the nature of growing up in that area. That's all I was...
That's what I mean.
In the salt water, you can nay.
You can nay. You can't, that's not a point there.
It is.
No, it's not. Sorry, it's another Tūwharetoa. Well, but Tuahine says she doesn't really use it, but it's when a duck's floating on the waters. It's a nay.
Nay.
So, they've been doing nay way before their song
Not-
came
not
out.
a dance.
So
It's
you can
song.
watch me dip and then watch me nay.
And that song's probably like, more to a whakarere
Yeah,
mai anyway now, eh?
Pātere.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the equivalent word would probably be something like precarious or
Yep.
that kind of
Yeah.
te rā momo wairua.
Okay.
Sure. Also, you have different tohu with kapua around the maunga.
Oh yeah, yes. Sorry, I shouldn't use that tone, but yes, we do.
But you don't have to talk about it if you want.
We used to have this one. God rest her soul. We had a kuia who would always kind of determine her day or her week dependent on the way the kapua would
Kia ora.
look,
Kia ora.
out. There were a few different theories about kapua being over particular areas in Tūwharetoa and the symbolism of that. And then also if the kapua were around pihanga and Tongariro, who are our couple mountain. Tongariro and Pihanga are married. That's how we look at that. And so depending on how the clouds were looking above those two mountains, you knew that something was about to happen or to stay away from a particular area. I remember my mother saying that if there were clouds over Pihanga and Tongariro, that you shouldn't go to Rotopounamu, who was a representative of their marriage. And so he tohu kino tērā me he mea e kapi ana e rā maunga e rua.
I te kohu.
Yeah, i te kohu, i te kapua.
Having dummies.
Exactly. So, he nui ngā kōrero pērā, but that's the one that kind of sticks out to me about Tongariro and Pihanga. Tērā, e rā momo kapua.
And in relation to that, there's a lot of people now that traverse those tracks, like the Tongariro crossing and that.
Yeah.
What should one be mindful of? Because I've been told that you can go there in the summer and it's way different when you get to the peak of those maunga. Yeah, what should one be mindful of or look for what cues when they're...
Bloody take a jacket.
Take a jacket, that's what I mean. Never mind your phone.
I mean, on a practical level, it's going to be freezing. I mean, you're at a different climate once you get really, really high. It's actually a topic which is talked about a lot in the past couple of years because of how touristic that area has become. So the people from Ngāti Tūwharetoa were very protective over the Tongariro crossing. But I would say if you wake up and the dawn is red, you probably shouldn't go. You probably shouldn't walk up. For us, Te Ahi Kaiata, or the red dawn, symbolises loss. It symbolises he momo mate. So if you see a symbol like that, I would probably say to be careful, particularly if you're not from Ngāti Tūwharetoa, if you're not from that area and you're not familiar, to tread carefully. But, I mean, be warm, leave just your footprints. And that's it. I liken it to, I guess a museum. Ka haere koe, ka titiro, you go, you have a look, and you enjoy the view and the feeling, the wairua. It's something that you'll never feel anywhere else in the world, I'd say. And enjoy that, and then, remember, take on those memories and haere pai atu. And leave in peace.
What about kai and stuff in certain places there? E mea tikanga no koutou?
That whole area around the Tongariro crossing, I think you're pretty safe in terms of kai. And Ketetahi, though, which is the kind of the hot spring and the puia, which is the mud pools just at the very, very top. It's like a spring there's a lot of geothermal activity in that area. If you're up there, I would be very careful with food because it's hot. The whole area is boiling hot and you just don't want to leave anything so noa in a place that is so tapu. I don't know. That sounds like a very contrasting statement to say, but Ketetahi is a very well-respected, well-protected and well-regarded area. And so if you were in there, I would treat it not necessarily like an urupa to that degree, but you would still treat it with a bit of respect. And so having your kai in that space makes it a little bit noa, and we don't want that. So, I mean, I wouldn't.
Yeah, I like these things, and especially I'm sure there are people out there that do too, like respecting the area that you go into. The utmost sign of respect is understanding and following and abiding by the tikanga of that area, whether it be Rome, China or Tongariro.
Yeah.
Wherever I go, if the place is new to me, I have a little karakia and a mihi as well. Because I'm treading through an area that doesn't belong to me, even though I may have some whakapapa. And then I can show my respect, for that place I'm traversing, or that water I'm going to swim in, or whatever. I really like the imagery of a museum. And they go, hare, titiro atu, ai, and then, absorb the wairua. He pai katoa, e rā kōrero kia. O tēnā rā watu koe tauhine?
That's fine.
Ka mātua i tēnā mō tēnei wā. Nō reira e te iwi, koe nā tātou kōrero mō Tūwharetoa i tēnei wā. Now, what shall I play to sort of break this before we get into our... Let's try this one.
Is that the Pakiwaitara jingle?
No.
No, that's the one when they go down the Wairere when they have a fight for the Battle of Wakanda.
Oh.
With the rain stick.
Yeah.
Te aiua stick.
Te aiua stick.
Ooh.
Tūwharetoa waiwai rākau.
Bueno, e te iwi ko tātā te waiata I tēnei wiki to tautoko, today's kaupapa. Iwi o te wiki Tūwharetoa is this waiata, one of the iwi anthems. And actually, I wanted Huti Huti Manuka.
Hey.
Yeah. Because I really like that waiata.
Pai tērā waiata.
Yeah, but
Tino.
we're not going to do Huti Huti Manuka.
No.
Ko tātā te waiata, hea te waiata I te tuahine.
Tūwharetoa marangara.
Do you know who composed this waiata?
Cole.
Well, we can do a bit of rangaho on that. Yeah. Hoi anō e te iwi, whakarongo mai ki tātā te waiata.
Tūwharetoa marangara. Mātai mai nei mātou, I runga I tēnei marae, ki te whakarite te karanga Ka te rawa pipi whakao, ngā tupu o ngā mata. Arui a taite, mihi kou atu, ngā iwi tau nei, runga o te rohe, o te ae ora. Ha! Tongariro te maunga, taupo te moana, Tūwharetoa marangara. Tūwharetoa marangara. Te tangi o te iwi kuarirora, ko te mana motu hake ki au. Tuku whakarere iho tō mana Māori Uriti a ki a ka Arui a taite, Ihi kou atu ngā iwi tau nei, runga o te rohe, o te ae ora. Ha! Tongariro te maunga, taupo te moana, Tūwharetoa marangara. Tūwharetoa marangara.
So we will get the kupu for that waiata up on our Facebook page, because I don't know if you can find that on Google. Who knows?
I don't know, who knows?
Oia, no, koe nā tata te waiata, kupu whakamuti ngā tātai.
Mihi kau ana kia koe.
Ai, e mihi ana.
Ai, e mihi ana māua kia koe, e whakapipi atu ana māua I ngā mihi ki runga kia koe.
Ai.
Mau I whai wā mai ki te whai wāhi ki te kōrero mō tō iwi, mō Tūwharetoa, he oranga ngākau, o tira I tau ai tētahi māramatanga ki runga. Kia māua I tēnā te māramatanga I pōhe ai māua kei amaro. And I'm sure all of our listeners out there got something out of that. Again, please engage with our pukamata, our Facebook page. Don't forget our kōrero kianga kiwaha for this week was aiua,
Aiho,
ai marangai. I forgot to ask. Could
Yeah.
you just use aiua? Or do you use them all together? Like
Cool.
aiua, all together.
Yeah, 'cause I was thought,
It's all or
aiua,
nothing.
aiho.
Well, it's all or nothing because then you know what the reference is to, because it's about bihanga nō reira.
Tēnā koe.
Ai, me whakaimi.
Kia ora, tēnā koe. Hoi no, e mihi tonu ana mātou tokotoru kia koutou katoa. Taringa brought to you by Te Wānanga Aotearoa from Te Ipuro here in Te Awamutu. Ana e mihi atu nei, hei ko nā mai rā e te iwi.
Ka kite.
Bit whakaronga pi kari kari. Gather up close everybody buddy. Taringa, taringa. Yeah, tahuri mai ki yo. Whakarongo ki te tangi a te kori mako. Kōrero flowing out the hooker force. Kaupapa relevant, kaupapa out of bounds. Kaupapa exigent, kaupapa paramount. Nā nā whakapiri mai ki te kaupapa tino whakahira whakarongo pi kari mai hare mai o Taringa hare mai we gotta gather up close everybody gather up close everybody kani move that body kani move that body.
Taringa, brought to you by Te Wānanga o Aotearoa. To listen to more episodes, search for us on your podcast app and subscribe. Taringa, whakarongo mai.